You're live, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, ladies and gents, good evening. Welcome to this North West Area Planning Committee on the 16th of August. My name is Councillor Mark Durham and I am Chairman of this committee. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording. And by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. And during each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak, and I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphone. Therefore, can I ask when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Please avoid repeating the same comments that have already been made. Item 2, apologies for absence. Have we any apologies? I don't think we have. I think we've got a full house.
No apologies, Chair.
Excellent, well done. Item 3, minutes. It's recommended that minutes of the meeting held on the 6th, oh no, that's today. And the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of June 2023 approved as an accurate record, members. Thank you very much indeed. Item 4, declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to the items of business on the agenda this evening, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members, you are reminded that you are also required to disclose any such interest as soon as you become aware, should the need arise through the meeting. Okay, that's done and dusted the official bits. Item 5, our first report is going to be, so item 5, land at Poplar Grove Farm, Great Totham. And this was a call in by former Councillor Keys. Who is taking us through this one?
Well,
Mr. Johnson?
That'd be Lisa Greenwood.
Okay, and she's in the ether. Good evening, Ms. Greenwood.
Hello.
Would you like to take us through this item then, please?
Yep, okay. The application site is located on the western side of Broad Street Green and on the southern side of Poplar Grove Chase and is outside of a defined settlement boundary. The site represents an undeveloped parcel of land, laid to grass and bound with thick vegetation along the majority of boundaries. To the north of the site is a row of linear residential development. To the west is Poplar Grove Farm, a Grade 2 listed building. To the south is the designated strategic site of Haybridge Garden Suburb, which is a hybrid scheme for the development of up to 1,138 dwellings. Planning Commission has sought for the erection of 9 dwellings. The dwellings will provide a mix of 2, 3 and 4 bedrooms. Plot 1 to 8 will be of 2 stories and plot 9 will provide for a bungalow. As you can see from the next 3 slides, plots 1 to 8 proposed to measure between 0.7 and 9.4 metres in height, and the ridge height of the bungalow would be 5.7 metres. A landscape buffer is proposed, and this is the view from the street scene. Turning to the principle of development, as stated, the site is outside of the settlement boundary. The Great Totham Neighbourhood Plan states that new development will be focused within the settlement boundaries of North and South Totham. Policy S8 of the LDP steers new development towards the existing urban area. However, this policy does allow for development outside of rural areas where the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside is not adversely impacted upon, and provided that it is for a specified purpose that satisfies other policies in the local plan. These purposes do not apply in this instance, and the scheme does not propose any significant benefits over and above policy compliant requirements, i.e. such as affordable housing, to weigh in the planning balance and might be taken into account to mitigate the harm caused by the conflict with planning policy. Whilst it's acknowledged that the site is accessible, you can see the access to the site here and how it links to the suburbs below. Concern is raised to the design of the scheme and its impact on the countryside. The site provides an area of meadowland. The meadow and associated boundary treatments provide a visual break between the residential development to the north and the development to the south at the Heybridge Gove. The site is also well related to the nearby heritage asset. The site is considered to be constrained in planning term, and as such, any development would need to be sympathetically designed to ensure that the harm is not caused to the heritage asset, but also to the character and appearance of the area as a whole. Whilst the applicant has sought to retain an area of meadowland to the north to reduce this impact, the development proposed would not front the highway. Instead, a new internal access is proposed, and this would not appear as a continuation, this would appear as a continuation to the garden suburb. By virtue of the layout, which provides a new access road, excessive height, new road, parking areas and paraphernalia, the development would appear as visually prominent and would urbanise the site. The applicant has failed to provide for affordable housing, despite meeting the policy threshold to do so, and has not submitted a unilateral undertaking and paid the relevant checking and monitoring fees to mitigate against the recreational harm caused by the development. In addition, the proposal would also result in a low level of harm to the listed building, and it is not considered that any benefits would overcome this. Turning lastly to the matter of access and highway safety, a new access is proposed on Broad Street Green. The proposal has been reviewed by the Highway Authority, who note that whilst every application is assessed on its own merit, in this instance, a planning application has also been submitted to the council on a site to the southeast for 9 dwellings and garage annexes. This is on land to the rear of 53 and 55 Broad Street Green. In this particular instance, the two proposals would have a wider impact on each other and the local highway network. As such, the authority has requested that the applicant should submit 2 Stage 1 road safety audits. The first should assess the proposal on its own merits, and the second take into account a similar proposal on the opposite side of the carriageway. At this juncture, the audits have not been received. An objection is therefore raised by the Highway Authority as insufficient information has been submitted to demonstrate that the proposal would be acceptable in terms of highway safety and efficiency in relation to the new access. For the reasons stated, this application is recommended for refusal.
Thank you very much. I understand we have one speaker who's an objector, is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Oh, okay. Is it Mrs. Beals? Is she online or is she?
I did submit a thing, but it got refused, so I was just out of time.
Okay. But
I got a notification to say it wasn't successful.
So do we have Miss Beals? Is she? I think she's online.
She did appear. I don't know where
She's
she
on Teams.
She's on Teams. Can you hear us?
Hi.
Mrs. Beals, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. That's great. Thank you very much. Well, you will have 2 minutes. I'm presuming you can't see our timer, so we will indicate verbally when we have 20 odd seconds left, if that's okay.
That's fine.
So, and we'll start the clock when you start speaking.
Okay, thank you. I will read in this commission.
I'm going to interrupt you, Mrs. It's. I don't know if you remember Norman Collier, but you were sounding very much like Norman Collier. We were only getting bits of each word. So, do you want to try again?
I'll try again. Is that any better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, so most of my original objection I did put down in writing. So I will literally just add that since that objection went in place, there's been 2 other applications in place. And I know it just mentioned them by the Highways Agency, but I live along that stretch, pretty much opposite where the new entrance would be. And I sit and work in my front room window, and I would say about 4 or 5 times a day that since the new roundabout has been put in place, it was frequently overtaking part of the road now, like literally cars fly past my right house 50, 60 miles an hour. I've got a 9-year-old son that I now won't let go outside the front because of how many cars go past, and if there's another entrance there, literally is an accident waiting to happen. I also work very, very closely with West Combe Park, And I know for a fact that they are really struggling to sell the houses there. So I do get the overall need of new housing need to put in place. But I think the needs in this area, that site has proved alone that actually there is not as much of a need as what we would think. And with this being proposed, plus another site across the road to it, and now there's another planning application for a site down the road as well, is there really a need for this number of houses in this area?
Does that conclude your statement, Mrs. Beales?
It does, yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Don't think we have any more public speakers, do we? No. So I'll go to members first, and Councillor Thompson's indicated first.
Thank you, Chairman. I propose we accept the officer's recommendation, if I can get that seconded.
Seconded. Right, okay. So we have a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation to refuse. I'm going to Councillor Morgan, then Councillor White.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just really a matter of clarification. I realise it's probably a typo, but I'd be interested to just look at exactly what it means, what it meant to say. That is clause 3.3.3. The proposal has also been found to cause less substantial harm to the Grade 2 listed Poplar Grove farmhouse. Could the officer perhaps explain what that should have said? Or
Thank you, Chairman.
Greenwood? Oh, okay. Mr. Johnson.
It's actually not a typo. It's taken from the words of the NPPF. They use terms like less than substantial harm and that sort of thing. Yeah, so it's actually not a typo. It just reads to the degree of harm to a heritage asset. There is substantial and less than substantial harm. Less than substantial harm doesn't necessarily mean that there is insignificant harm. It's just harm, just that less than significant.
so just to be clear, so it's not causing, it's not likely to cause substantial harm to the heritage assets. Is that what you're saying? Is that what it says?
Well, substantial harm would be significant damage to the fabric of the listed building. It wouldn't result in that, but it's still a level of harm. It's just less than substantial.
Right.
It's just the nature of the wording that they use, and it's fairly, in the last few years, new nomenclature in the NPPF, and yeah.
Perhaps I'll put that straight. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, mine is really, could we go back to the map where you'd got all of the approved applications where they were in green? Right, so the one to the bottom of the page, is that the garden suburb or is the top right one? Okay, so...
Yeah, that's the garden suburb.
Right, okay, so for me with policy S8, the fact that it's actually next door to a strategic site, that one doesn't bother me. This other site on the other side of the road, what stage is that at? Because I'm just surprised that they've been asked to do a road survey to include the application on the other side of the road. And how many houses is that one?
The road audit survey isn't normal practice, standard practice, because normally each site's assessed on its individual merits. But in this particular instance, because this application literally came in, the other one, not my one or our one, this one came in after a matter of days. The Highway Authority, it was the same officer that received both applications and called us and said, we're going to ask both applicants to produce the road safety audit because actually this will impact, if both come forward. We need to actually consider not just the individual site, but the site in relation to the other site as well. Now, I spoke to the officer who is managing the application, and it's for 9 dwellings with garage annexes, Sarah, and that application at the moment is in process and she's receiving consultation responses. It hasn't been called into committee, as far as I believe.
Yeah, if I might come back, it's just for a matter of clarity. So are they both for 9 houses? How many houses is the other application? Sorry, I'm just...
Yes.
Both 9, right, okay. And because it just seems a little bit unfair that because this one's come first, for me, one of the major reasons for refusal is the road, because its highways raise an issue. I've personally not got a problem with the application itself because of its location adjacent to the sites, but I do have a bit of an issue with the road thing. Obviously, if highways is a problem, we can't go against that. But it just seems a bit unfair that... How long ago were the applicants told they had to do these surveys? Was it a long time ago, or could they have got them done before now?
they've had sufficient time, and in actuality, this application is unacceptable for other reasons. So we've provided them with time to give us the road survey. However, this application would have been recommended for refusal for other reasons. The only reason it's before the committee is because Councillor Keys had called it in, otherwise it would have been refused because it's contrary to local plan policies.
Yeah, and I've got some other points as well. But I mean, for me personally, I've not got a problem with the other parts like officers do, but that's a member's gift to interpret the NPPF differently. But that for me, I mean, RAMs could have been done by condition. And so it was just this thing with the road. Do we know if the other applicants did their survey?
Just to clarify, actually, we can't actually condition RAMs. RAMs has to be satisfied before the decision
fair
is
enough.
made. We cannot condition RAMs.
Okay, and if you might indulge me for my last question, has the other applicant done the road survey? And if they did, what were the outcomes of their surveys? Do we know?
I'm not privy to that information. So no, I don't know how far along they are with their road survey. But it would be on a case by case basis. We wouldn't be able to use their information for this application.
Right, I think that's settled.
All right,
that.
okay. All right, thank
Question,
you.
Councillor Siddle?
Yeah, just want to question the accuracy of that map on the left-hand side, because the garden village does not go all the way up to where it's been projected.
This is taken from our internal
So it's,
planning map.
I know.
So I've copy and pasted this to give you an idea of where the sites are in relation to each other. That simply shows that's the highway.
Right.
But unfortunately, our map has brought that one up slightly higher than it should be.
So the actual garden village is on the other side of the roundabout, much further down the road. And when the Bellway application was put through, the houses next to the relief road, because of the effect that they were having on the grade 2 listed farm, had to be designed differently. And that was taken into consideration. These particular properties would have a huge impact on that farm, would have a huge impact on Broad Street Green. Broad Street Green is already a dangerous road. You know, that access just after the roundabout, you know, highways, I'm pleased that they've objected to it and they've raised this thing, because it would create even more danger on Broad Street Green. So, yeah, we have to go with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, I don't see any other members indicating, so we have a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation of refusal proposed by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Morgan. So would you like to indicate those in favour of that proposal? And that is unanimous, so that is refused. Thank you, members. Next item. Okay, right. Apologies, let's scroll. Agenda item 6, this is land west of Crown Road, Cold Norton. And that it will be found on page 37. And this was another member call-in by former councillor Fleming, also with an officer's recommendation to refuse. Who is taking us through this one? Is that Ms Greenwood again?
I'm taking this one. I'm taking you through this one on behalf of Devon Herner.
Okay.
Have you? Was there a members' update? I believe for this one.
Yeah, there was a members' update. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's been circulated. Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, land west of Crown Road, Cold Norton. This is an outline application with all matters apart from the means of access being reserved for future consideration. The proposal is for up to 14 dwellings with vehicle circulation, parking, hard and soft landscaping and associated development. Here we have the location plan. The site is accessed from Crown Road to the south along an unmade track. The site lies outside the settlement boundary but adjoins it on its southern boundary and at the southwestern corner. The site includes Crown Lodge, which will be demolished to facilitate the development, as well as grazing land and a paddock. Crown Lodge is a residential dwelling. There's a public right-of-way that runs along the north of the site and one to the eastern boundary. This is the illustrative layout. Although an access although access is a reserved matter, access is included and shows the internal estate road, and therefore the layout of the site would largely be dictated by the positioning of the internal road layout. Although the new development now includes the area of land occupied by Crown Lodge, the development is still considered to be contrary to the prevailing pattern of development. The building height plan shows two-storey dwellings along the western edge of the site, with single-storey properties on the eastern edge, more centrally within the site. This is the junction arrangement plan and shows the access to the site onto Crown Road and visibility displays. An objection has been raised by the local highway authority because it has not been demonstrated that there are appropriate visibility displays at the junction of Crown Road with Latchenden Road. There has also been no detail submitted identifying appropriate measures to improve walking and cycling from the development along Crown Road, an unmade and unlit private road. There is also conflict between pedestrians, cyclists and vehicles that would be intensified by the development and the number of dwellings proposed, resulting in the deterioration of the public right-of-way and to the detriment of highway safety. This is the tree survey plan, and this shows the trees to be removed down here in red in the southwest corner of the site. Slide 7 shows the previously dismissed scheme. This shows the location plan and the indicative layout for 4 bungalows at the site, and this was dismissed on appeal due to the harm caused to the character and appearance of the countryside. The previous scheme did not include Crown Lodge. The inspector, in considering the appeal, noted the following key points. Crown Lodge marks the end of the perceived line of development from the village. The openness and rural quality of this land are positive aspects of the character and appearance of the area. The dwellings further along Crown Road are spatially and visually separated from the village and appear as standalone dwellings. Development in this location would completely change the character of the land, giving a more urbanised appearance and the marked transition into the countryside. The previous scheme, it should be noted, was for 4 dwellings, and as such, the level of urbanisation was lesser than the application before us, yet the inspector still considered the harm to the character and appearance of the area to be unacceptable. Now, the photos show the application site from Crown Road and demonstrates the openness of Crown Road on both sides of the road, particularly in the aerial image. The development is not considered infill development due to the distance between the application site and the development to the north. It is instead seen as an unacceptable sprawl of development to the north beyond the existing built form to the south. This shows the existing dwelling at Crown Lodge as well as Crown Road and neighbouring properties. These photos are taken from the public right-of-way looking north and west. The development, particularly the 2-storey dwellings along the western edge, would have demonstrable impacts on the public right-of-way. These photographs are taken from Crown Road, looking along the road from the public right-of-way entrance as well as at the public right-of-way itself. This slide shows the northern end of Crown Road. Now, dwellings here are surrounded, dwellings at the northern end of Crown Road and surrounding areas showing its detachment from the southern end of the road. Any new development in this location since the determination of the previous application has been absorbed within the context of the existing development. Therefore, the relationship between the application site and the development to the north remains largely as it did previously. Here are more photographs of the northern end of Crown Road, and the more sporadic development defines the edge of the northern part of the built form. And these photographs are taken from Cherry Blossom Lane and the surrounding areas, and Cherry Blossom Lane is located to the west of the site. To conclude, based on the assessment undertaken in the officer's report, the proposed residential development would result in an unacceptable urbanising effect into what is currently considered an area constituting the countryside and an unresolved harm to the natural environment in terms of impacts on biodiversity and ecological assets. The ecological concerns relate to a lack of certainty over the impacts on great crested newts. In addition, the proposed development would not provide suitable visibility displays or appropriate measures to improve and promote cycling and walking from the site, which would result in an unacceptable degree of hazard to all road users and fail to provide suitable access to the detriment of highway safety. The proposal would also intensify the conflict and interference between pedestrians and vehicles using the public footpath, which would lead to a deterioration of the public right-of-way. On the basis of the assessment within this report, it's concluded that the harm caused by the development would outweigh the positive elements of approving this permission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I think we have one public speaker, which is the applicant. I think it's Mr. Spurgeon. Is that correct, sir? Would you like to take a seat with the microphone? I think you know the routine anyway, and as you've heard, you will have 2 minutes from when you start speaking. Please turn your microphone on. There you are. Thank you, Councillor Morley.
Right, thank you, Chair. There are a number of areas of concern. They're effectively only one real matter of substance, as we see it, that can't be overcome by condition or completed legal agreement related to the principle of development. And it's evident that the recommendation for refusal of this application is essentially due to the location of the site outside but adjoining the settlement boundary of Cold Norton. In assessing the impact, officers suggest that the proposal would represent unwarranted development in the countryside and refer to it as unacceptable sprawl. We would strongly contest these descriptions and findings and suggest that the scheme is more accurately described as infilling between existing areas of development, particularly to the south and west, and as a modest extension to the village. It is notable that the council has actually assessed the site as suitable for new housing, suggesting it could provide land for around 20 homes. And while it's acknowledged that this assessment is provided in an evidence-based document and not in planning policy, it does clearly contradict the position set out in the officer's report. The impact of development on the rural character of the area is ultimately what has led officers to conclude that permission should be refused. However, while the site may be considered as part of the countryside, it is something of a stretch to describe this as a rural location when it's comprised of an existing house and garden with a close relationship to the settlement boundary and the existing residential areas within the village. In this case, the site is not considered sensitive in landscape or visual terms, is not accessible to the public, and does not have any particular ecological value or value as countryside in its own right. As the evidence-based document recognises, this is exactly the kind of unconstrained site that needs to be developed if sufficient housing is to be delivered across the district. So overall, it represents a suitable site for housing as well as a deliverable and well-considered scheme which should be considered favourably given it is of a scale and nature which is entirely appropriate in this location. Given that it would provide 6 out of a total of 14 dwellings as affordable homes, it's not surprising the scheme is enthusiastically supported by the Council's Strategic Housing Services Department. I would therefore strongly urge members to give their backing to this scheme and look to support the provision of much needed new homes.
Thank you, Mr. Spurgeon. I think we get the gist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Members, I'm going to Councillor White first because it's on your patch. We do, of course, have a recommendation from Highways, which is a...
Actually, for once, I'm going to agree with officers again that this. I agree with the recommendation, and I suggest that it should be refused. But before we vote on it, I'd actually like to raise some points. I mean, I'm normally the queen of supporting, generally speaking, development in my ward, but this is just a step too far. You know, I think the fact that they had the 4 houses lost at appeal, dismissed at appeal, and now they want to drop to 14 just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I also think this would set a very dangerous precedent because this is on a road that doesn't actually go anywhere. It's a dead end. And I just think it's the wrong development in the wrong place. So for that reason, I, for once, actually support the recommendation of refusal.
That's a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Morley. Councillor Thompson, you had indicated.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. Thank you, Chairman. I've heard enough, and if I hear some more, I might change my mind. But as things stand, I'm happy to support.
Would the members have any contrary views or other questions they would like to ask the officers? Nobody is indicating, so we have a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation to refuse this for the reasons already provided, proposed by Councillor Miss White, seconded by Councillor Morley. Please indicate those in favour. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. That is refused. Thank you, members. Moving on to Councillor Stevens. I'm sorry, I thought.
Thank you, Chair. Just before we move on to the next item, can I ask a question through you of the officers? I understand that where members have made call-ins and are no longer members, that we still have to have these applications coming to council. And I really want to explore that and see if is that definitely true, or could these, if there are any other applications outstanding that will still come forward of this nature, could we all be emailed to see if anybody else supports them being called in? Because I can see us we could be here in a year's time looking at applications that none of us has any interest in.
Councillor Stevens, I would have thought we were probably getting to the end of it. I mean, because under normal circumstances, the officer will contact the member that called it in with their view and request whether they wish to retain the call in. Obviously, that wasn't possible in the last two cases. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. As things stand, I'm afraid that absolutely is the case. I think this requires a minor change, perhaps not that minor, to the Constitution. I'm looking across at the leader here who's nodding, and I'm a member of Performance, Governance and Audit, and I shall make sure that this goes there so that we can deal with
Thank
this.
you very much. So, yeah, I would doubt there'll be many more. Councillor Morgan.
Well, just to say, Mr. Chair, that the whole business of planning and enforcement is being looked at by the Oversight and Scrutiny Committee, so I will, as the Chairman, add that particular point to the list.
Yeah, okay. I think it's just one of the anomalies of having a post-election situation. Okay, so we now have item 7, which is land adjacent to Honeywood Farm, Honeypot Lane, Purleigh. That's a call-in from Councillor Miss White. Councillor Miss
Terribly
Thompson.
sorry, Chairman, but could you allow a 2-minute adjournment so that Thompson can have a comfort break, because
I'm more
I have a little problem.
I'm more than happy to oblige Councillor Miss Thompson. So,
if I just go, obviously I missed the beginning of the
no, so
presentation.
that will 5 minutes suffice, Councillor Thompson?
It certainly will. Thank
you very much.
I
I'll
appreciate
adjourn
that,
for 5
Chairman,
minutes.
and I'm not.
No, I'm going to turn off the lights a little bit.
Oh, that's the wrong way.
That's going to be a first for me to turn down a rural development in my ward, I think.
That's it. And Luke. This is you, Mr. Thank you very much indeed. Welcome back, members, and anybody who happens to be watching this live, which I very much doubt. But, agenda item 7 is to be found from page 67. This is land adjacent to Honeywood Farm, Honeypot Lane, Purleigh, and this is a call in by Councillor Miss White. And Mr. Doe, you're taking us through this one.
Thank you, Chairman. this is the last item on the agenda. It relates to land at the rear of Honeywood Farm. I'm just going to bring up a map, putting the site in context. The site is over to the right-hand side, the hatched red area. The solid red area is the vehicular access, and then at the front of the site is Honeypot Lane. To the north there, at the top, is Stowe Road, and then bottom to the left is the sort of the centre of the settlement of Stowe Maries. Honeypot Lane goes through to the south to Lower Burnham Road. So that's the general setting to the site. Moving on to the next presentation, here is the site location plan, and as mentioned before, the site is to the rear of Honeywood Farm. There's some commercial units immediately to the west. To the north, to the northwest, is the only residential property anywhere near this site, Fowler's Farm. It's got some ponds to the rear of it in a wooded area. To the south of the site is a bridleway on a former railway embankment, but the railway embankment is treed. There's trees all the way along the bridleway. Otherwise, the site is surrounded by a golf course. To the south is a golf course, and the top right-hand corner there you can see is a golf course as well. Moving on to the block plan, the proposal is for 6 office units, 6 office pods. They're arranged in a U-shaped arrangement, as being indicated there. 2 office pods and a shared kitchen to each arm, as it were. That's shown in a bit more detail in the floor plan. A WC just off the kitchen. Each office unit, each pod, small, but would have its own kitchen, would share an entrance into quite an attractive courtyard feature with flower beds, a canopy stroke gazebo at the front. Indeed, the gazebo is shown at the front there. This is the part of the site to the rear. There's adequate car parking provision. This is the view to the north. The units are quite attractively finished off. They have a timber finish. This is the vehicular access to the site. Chairman, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doe. I don't think we have any public speakers for this. Just look at as you say, Mr. Doe, they're very small, and I note that although they've got 2 units, as a hospitality company is going to have 6 staff. It's 3 staff in each. It's pretty tight, isn't it? But whether they'll, I mean, that's their issue, I guess. But I mean, I'm guessing that's within limits. But anyway.
Well, Chair, we consulted environmental health. There was no problem
no,
there.
it's just an
Whether
observation.
all members of staff would be there at the same time.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. So I've got Councillor Miss White, then Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will say that I do know the applicant because he's a member of the Stowe Maries Parish Council. But that's all. And I have to say, I called this in because I thought this would be down for refusal, especially in light that it's got 3 kitchens. But I'm really pleased that it's down for approval because we need these business sites. This land here has always been used for business of one sort or another, and it's a bit of a hodgepodge. And I'm really pleased that it's down for approval. And I'd like to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Seconded.
There we go. That's a proposal by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Morgan. Councillor Morgan, you indicated.
Yeah, it's just really sort of more point of information. I note that the application, a proposal to section 73A, is that because it's a retrospective application?
Well, in a word, Chair, yes is the answer. It's up and running with no apparent problem.
Thank you.
Slightly regrettable it's retrospective, but Councillor Morley.
Yeah, just a small. Is there? I don't have a problem with it, but is with some of the other applications we've looked at, there's often a concern because of kitchens and things like that. It could be used for living and things like that. Is there?
Well, I would very much
If you
doubt you're going to live
you
in.
know what I mean.
Living in a box, I think.
Well, there's a good song actually.
It is a good song, but yeah.
Chair, there's a condition that the commercial units
Members,
are
please.
used as
Members, please.
commercial units. Condition 2, the E class, which is
Yeah, I think it's duly protected. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Sorry, going into finer detail here. I just wondered if the application was necessary because of the recent change of classes of use, and did something get moved around so they needed a different type class of use, or am I barking up completely the wrong tree? Thank you.
well, Chair, there's various things going on at Honeywood Farm. Recently, at land further to the south west, there's various things going on at the farm. The owner seems quite enterprising. Quite how this came to light, the details escape me, I'm afraid, but it's being regularised now.
Sorry, Chair, the one thing I would add is that when we look at the planning history under section 6, there was a previous section 73A application for the change of use of agricultural buildings to use class B8, storage and distribution. Now, there would not have been the permitted change of use within the use classes between B8 and this sort of use. So hence the application. I mean, obviously it just seemed that over time in the applicant seeing what's an attractive operation, they would have gone for the change of use, and this is just to regularize it. And just to remind, although I know sometimes it is sort of said that one should not carry out development without getting planning permission, but lawfully it's not illegal. Yeah, it's only if we then find that it's unacceptable and we serve an enforcement notice. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, well. Okay, any other members wish to comment? If failing that, I have a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. I think that was Councillor White and seconded by Councillor Morgan, was it? Yes. Please indicate, members, if you support that. I'll go along with that. That again is unanimous. Thank you very much, members. That is the last item on the agenda. So, members, thank you for your contributions to this meeting. Oh, Councillor Stevens, yes, I'm sorry. You have to be quicker.
Apologies. Oh, I was very quick, but you're reading something. I don't understand really why we've just heard this last one either. In the Constitution, it says where a member's request is the only reason for an application being referred to the area committee, the Director of Service Delivery will notify the member of his recommendation on the application, following which the member may withdraw his or her request. So, through you, Chair, can I ask if that conversation took place and what the outcome of it was, please?
It's a very good point, Councillor Stevens. Was there a...
Yes, there was an email. I think it was this one, and I said I was happy with the officer's recommendation. I mean, unless it came in too late, I don't know. But there was one that I had an email for last week, and it said, was I happy with the officer's recommendation of approval? I came back and said yes. So unless it was a different application, I don't know.
Sorry, did you say last week?
Well,
I think it was last week, yeah.
That would have been a bit late.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
the
but whenever it was,
paper-
I sent an email back a day or two later when I picked it up. Might have been the same day. In fact, I think it was about 10 minutes after I got the email I sent the
I
response.
think, Councillor Stevens, you make a very good point, and I think perhaps members might note, if they call in, it would be beneficial for everybody's sake, just to keep a check of where that particular application is, and giving the officer plenty of time to come back, and so you can decide whether you wish the call in to remain. But it was a good point, well made. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add that normally it's the case that most call-ins that I've seen, members who say they'd call in the application subject to having sight of the officer's report. That tends to give me an indication, you kind of have a little sense of how things might be. And then normally officers would act on that. I mean, we don't really want to produce a committee report if we don't have to. If we feel that our recommendation is like to be in sync with members' views. So not sure what happened here. I'll have to sort of look into the file.
Okay,
but,
we'll perhaps look into it. I know that, a couple of call-ins I've made the officer's life hell by trying to find out what's happening to it. And we all know which one that is. So, members, thank you very much for your contributions. We will now close the meeting at 8:15. As the meeting is now closed, please do not enter in any further discussions and leave the meeting promptly. Thank you very much, members.
So just on that point, are you aware about the call?
I was aware of the call, I wasn't aware of for it not to go to committee. What I would
No, well, I mean, it wouldn't say that. But it's
Night, Jade.
Good night.